this is kind of a big deal. So I don't know what to do. We're back to square one. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, so welcome back to the half bath makeover. I have a little bit of a conundrum today. We're halfway through and we've kind of decided to pivot. Well, pause so that we can add in another project to this project. So I think that in my first half bath makeover video, I talked about the floors in the half bath and how they were like salvaged, and so they don't quite match, and you know, they're a little bit of a mess. Planning on hopefully this year refinishing them all, but we have a few big projects that we want to do before we like make them look perfect and then risk scuffing them up and all that stuff. So we've been holding out and just planning to do them all at once. However, my husband Frank was going ahead and putting in quarter round trim on the bottom of the wainscoting here, and he said, you know what, like this room is so tiny that like you could easily redo the floors. Not easily. He knows that it's not easy. But like it wouldn't be that big of a project. We're not going to really be able to fit like a floor sander in here anyway when we redo the floor, so I'm gonna have to basically do the whole room by hand anyhow. Might as well do it now. So yeah, and of course he said that and I'm like, yes, of course, redo the floors. I would love to. No, seriously, I was like excited, super pumped. But that definitely puts a hold on the whole painting process going on in here, which is good because you know what? I'm glad we decided this now before painting it and making everything else perfect and then having to come back in and do the floors anyway. At some point, we're gonna have to do them at some point anyway. And right now the radiator that goes here, that radiator is already pulled out, as you can see. So anyway, to make a long story short, which too late, we are going to redo the floors in here. And this is my first time redoing the floors. I have redone a lot of wood projects, so this is not super intimidating to me. I'm pretty confident about it. But yeah, we're gonna redo this together and see how it comes out. Sanding back the floor took probably about 4 days. I wasn't able to work on it all day every day, but I would work on it for a few hours each day, and boy did my arms hurt after that. I started with a really coarse grit sandpaper. I think it was about a 40 grit sandpaper. I used that to do the initial strip back of the floor. After that, I went back over it several times with increasingly higher number sandpapers. I think I stopped at about a 120. There were certain spots that I had to go over a little more intensely just because they were so uneven from the rest of the floor. I was really happy overall with how even I was able to get the floors in the end. So I just finished sanding the bathroom. I'll show you what I've done. Here is the floor. You can kind of see, I'm going to clean up next, but that is the original floor. And then these are all the sanded down ones. So next up, I need to super deep clean everything, including myself. And then we can start testing some stains. And yeah, I am so excited to get moving on this. Okay, so in order to test out stains, I got a bunch of paint sticks. Obviously these are not at all like a wood floor, but I do find that they're at least a good, like they can be a really good example to see how a stain looks more in real life. Like when I look at the stains on the little like sample chart that they have in the store, I swear they come out absolutely nothing like those. So whenever I do a wood project that I need to pick a stain for, this is how I kind of test things out, just because it gives you a slightly better example of what the stains might look like. It's definitely not a perfect way to do this, but I just like to do it to get an idea. So this is what we're gonna do. I have 4 stains to try. I don't want anything super dark, but at the same time, like our floors are quite a bit beat up, and so I think that we're going to have to go a little bit darker. So here is this provincial. Anyway, it looks very dark in here. All right, let's do the Min Wax English Chestnut. This is kind of pretty. And then we'll do Espresso, which I feel like is probably the darkest. Yeah, this one is way darker than the other ones. So this will be interesting. The last few years, light wood floors have been really, like, that's the it thing. Like, light wood floors have been everywhere. I feel like I do think that that's a trend that won't continue. But I do think that maybe going with something that's maybe sort of a little bit more like classic, and I hate to say that because I think even that is sort of like a word that changes depending on the trends, but I do think that going with something that maybe is not quite as trendy, at least, is probably just a smarter way to go. I mean, their floors, like, nobody wants to have to redo them every few years just because trends have changed. So, and nobody's going to, right? Like, that's just silly. So I would love to find something that feels, you know, classic and goes with our house and, you know, doesn't feel like it's just a trend. It feels like it really fits with our house that's from the 1930s. Last one, we have the Varathane English Chestnut. We'll see how different this is than the Min Wax English Chestnut. Ooh, this one's definitely darker than the Min Wax English Chestnut. That's interesting. It's almost like halfway between the Min Wax English Chestnut and the Espresso. So, all right. That is all of them. I'll still need to like test a spot on the floors to make sure that I really like it before I go all in. But this should definitely help, you know, at least rule some out as definite no's. Okay, so I'm gonna bring them out into the dining room so we can get a little bit better light. And I feel like, honestly, I kind of looked at these briefly in the bathroom, but because the wainscoting is still wood, it kind of like throws me off a little bit. So I feel like looking at them against like trim, like traditional trim, might be a little bit easier. Also, I mean, this is kind of a big deal. We're not really just picking a color for the bathroom. Like, I'm planning on using this color throughout the whole house, you know? Like, don't really want to have to restain the bathroom again, like if I want to do a different color. So hopefully we can pick a color that will work for the whole house. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna try. So as you can see, two of them are definitely a lot darker. So this is the Espresso. That is really dark, but I think it's just a little too dark for us. So I'm definitely gonna say no to that one. Okay, so we have both of the English Chestnuts are really nice, but it is funny because they're almost like more different than the Provincial and the Min Wax English Chestnut. Like, those two are almost closer than these two, but I don't know. Here we go. I feel like it might be easier to see over here even. I mean, either way, I'm going to have to do a test on the actual floor and see how the actual floors take it, because it might come out quite a bit different. I think I'm going to try the Provincial. It's just like a hair lighter than the English Chestnut, and I think I'd rather be just a little bit lighter if I can. I'm going to try for it. So I think, all right, we're going to give that a try. So I'm going to try to put it in this spot as like the test spot, because that is where the radiator usually sits, which we are going to bring back in here, but it's not in here now. So I'm going to do it under there. That way, if it isn't quite what I'm looking for and it leaves any weirdness even when I take it off, I should probably wear gloves, but we're just going to put it on because it's just a tiny bit. So we're just, yeah. I feel like you can barely see it with the wood conditioner on, which I waited as long as it said to wait. I don't know, I'm just not seeing the stain really take. Yeah, it really just kind of looks dirty. Definitely not what I'm looking for. I don't know. We'll try a little bit more. Okay, so hello from me from the future. I did not realize while I was shooting this that my memory card ran out of space and completely cut off like a major moment here, which was me deciding to actually test the espresso color on the floors instead. So we're about to cut right back into me testing the espresso color on the floor. So I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, that's definitely showing up better. I think I like it. So the more I look at it, the more I like it. And I think we're just gonna go for it. One thing that I did do that I didn't show here is that I also used a wood conditioner and I let that dry for I think the half an hour that it tells you to. And then I put on the stain. I put it on using a method that I've used before where it's just sort of, you put some on the rag and you wipe it on and then you sort of wipe it off with a clean rag. So it's been about 2 days since I did the stain in here and I don't know. All right, I'll let you look at it. So I do feel like actually it looks better in camera. It definitely is really splotchy. Some of the pieces are definitely just worse, obviously, than others, but then some of them, I don't know. I don't know if it's how I put the stain on. I do know that I didn't put it on quite correctly. I was sort of using the technique that I use on furniture a lot of the time, which I know is not correct when you're doing floors. Obviously, it still is stained, so it's not like it's nothing. But yeah, there's just so much variation, which I know that we're gonna get that. No matter what I do, we're probably gonna get that because these floors were salvaged. They came from multiple different houses. They're not all gonna match. The ones in here especially are from houses that are even older than ours. So I don't know what to do. You know, restoring old hardwood floors is just not like an exact science. Like the way you would stain or prep brand new wood floors, like people know obviously how to do that. And there are tons of videos about restoring hardwood floors, but like we have pine floors and so a lot of people really love to keep those natural colored. But like I said, we had to salvage a lot of floors. So not all of them are original to our house. And so they have a slightly different look and they might be a slightly different type of pine. And some people online said that staining them darker makes the splotchiness worse. And then some people online said that staining them dark is better. And so I do think I really like the overall color of the floor, that like medium brown. I think I do really like it. I do keep toying with the idea of whether or not to strip them back and leave them pine, but I think for a couple reasons with our house that might add a lot more potential problems with trying to, you know, get a somewhat consistent look. Like I know we're not going to get perfect floors. I am not expecting perfect floors and I don't want perfect floors. I want our house to feel like an old house. I want it to feel like original and that we haven't completely changed it or anything like that. But there is sort of like the balance of like looking old but also feeling refreshed. And I think that that's just like a really hard balance to try to find sometimes. So I am really struggling with what to do. Part of me is tempted to just take the stain off but then put it back on using the correct method for staining floors and just seeing how that turns out. Which obviously it might end up turning out exactly the same. I don't know. But this is one of those learning curves. You know, this is my first time doing a project like this. And so I know that I might not get it perfect the first time. But part of the reason why I kind of wanted to do this project anyway was because I think that this is a good spot in our house to kind of test things out and learn a little bit and make mistakes, because I would rather do it on this little tiny floor that takes, you know, just a few extra hours to strip back and restain than have to redo all of the floors in the house. So I'm thinking right now that I am going to strip these back and then restain them. And I know that I am risking them potentially still looking exactly the same, but I think that I'm okay with that. At least I'll know. And I'll feel like I really tried and I did my best, and it gives me some more information. So I think we're gonna do that. Yesterday I was able to actually get the floor sanded down again. We're back to square one. And I did do some cleaning yesterday, but we still have a lot more cleaning to do, so we're gonna do that. And then I think that we might have enough time to actually start the staining process again today. We're gonna get a move on and get some stuff done today. The second time around, I also decided to use a different type of wood conditioner, one that I had seen recommended by a lot of floor people online. So I gave that a try, and I did notice putting it on that it just felt a lot higher quality than the one I had used before. But after that, I went to work staining once again, and honestly, this new method that I used was not terribly different from the old method. It was similar in that you're using two rags, you're sort of using one to put it on and one to take it off. However, this time around with the first batch of stain that I would put on, I would really flood the area, just like really fill it, and then I would wipe it off. So just a lot more stain going on initially. So here they are. Here's the floor after my second attempt. So is it perfect? No, but I am so much happier with it. I honestly am. I was surprised. I kind of thought that it might be a little bit of a placebo effect of just knowing that I did something that made me feel better about them. But even my husband Frank, when he came in, was like, no, they look way better. They seriously do. So I do think that the technique I used staining them the first time around caused some extra splotchiness. So I'm glad I redid them. Even though they're still not perfect, like as you can see, like that one piece of flooring, he's different. He's doing his own thing. And honestly, I think we're going to end up with a bit of that throughout the house. And that's okay. I know I said before that like I do want them to feel like old floors. I want them to have character. I just didn't want them to feel quite so splotchy to me. Like I just felt like it did look like there was, that I did something wrong, which I think I did. So that's fine. We live, we learn, we fix it. We get a little bit better each time. So anyway, we are stained. We can finally poly coat it and seal it so we can finally use this bathroom again, number one, which would be nice. And number two, move on to all of the other things that I still want to do in this bathroom. So I am super excited. We're gonna poly coat it and then we're finally gonna be done with the floors. I won't bore you with the process, but I ended up doing 3 coats of poly, and this is the before, just so you remember, and here is the after. I'll be back next week to share more of the half bath progress. I hope you are having a lovely week.